Hey guys, this is AI Gaming 1776 and I am playing Far Cry 3 with a GTX 980 Ti. Now, it is September 2015, so you may be asking yourself, why would this guy be playing Far Cry 3? Metal Gear Solid 5 is out, Far Cry 4 is out, The Witcher 3 is out, Grand Theft Auto 5 is out. There's games coming out this fall for Christmas still. Why would this guy possibly want to play Far Cry 3? And especially in 1080p with the GTX 980 Ti. What is going on with this guy? Well, let me help you out here. Let me fill you in. Far Cry 3 is a crazy difficult game to run above 60 frames per second with all the settings up. All right. With a 980 Ti, you can finally do that in 1080p. Okay. So I'm going to show you the graphics. Matter of fact, it's quicker to say ultra preset, overall quality, ultra preset. Then you go over to video, and we are only 1920 by 1080p. And then we have DirectX 11, MSAA times 2, alpha to coverage is enhanced, SSAO method is HBAO. All right. Now, I will tell you this. With these settings this way right here, you can have beautiful, smooth, non-stuttering, fairly consistent 60 frame per second gameplay. Fairly consistent. The problem is when you use a 60 hertz monitor, it seems to bounce more. All right. And I've seen it go down from 60 to 50 in this exact area where I'm at right here on this dock. See, it's going down to 59 here and there. That's the problem. It's not showing itself, but that is the problem you have with a 60 hertz monitor. I am using an RL2455HM from BenQ. I think it's a very good 60 hertz monitor, especially for the money. But even not just for the money, there's a lot about this monitor that I like. It has a lot of charm. It's a very pleasant monitor for me to use. I don't know if it's the best 60 hertz 1080p monitor out there, but I enjoy it. Now, here's the thing. About a month ago, I started doing 144 hertz gaming. So I got another BenQ. It's an XL2430T. That's XL2430T. And a lot of my games I can play in the 120 to 140 frames per second range. Actually, let me take this car. We're going to do a couple things here. I'm actually going to talk to you until we get to this tower, and then we'll be done, because I'm just showing off the graphics. Oops, wrong button. Thank you for your car. So here's the thing. I did not mean to do that. Even this graphics card, the 980 Ti, cannot get this game up to 144 frames per second at the ultra preset. It just can't do it. It's not possible. Not even with a 980 Ti can you do that, even though this is an old game. Now, is it poorly optimized? Is it demanding? I don't know what the issue is. But I will tell you this. The XL2430T 144 hertz monitor can still display about 100 frames to 110 frames per second of this game at the ultra preset. And it's friggin' just wonderful. It's wonderful. But the 980 Ti still can't keep a stable 100 frames per second. All right. So it actually bounces between 60 and 90 frames per second for the most part. This is a 980 Ti. Okay. This is a card that's been shown to perform as well as a GTX Titan. Is it a Titan? Titan X, but is it a GTX? It might not be. I don't know how they word that, but the Titan X. Because the 980 Ti can do a higher clock speed. Matter of fact, we're at 1342 for the clock speed if you look in the upper left-hand corner. So this card can, in some instances, outperform a Titan X. But it still cannot take this game to even a stable 100 frames per second. I just saw all kinds of stuttering just now while I was playing, but the frame rate didn't go crazy like I thought it would. It felt really bad. It felt very stuttery. I just saw it stutter. Interesting that the frame rate is saying 60, but I'm feeling stuttering. And that goes back to the fact it's a 60 hertz monitor. All right, so 980 Ti, 144 hertz monitor. The card still cannot take this game with the Ultra preset and MSAA times 2 to even a stable 100 frames per second, let alone the 144. So what do I do? Well, I'll tell you what I do. And I wish I could... Why did it do that? I wish I could use a capture device and show you how good it looks on my other screen, but I can't. My capture device stops at 60 frames per second. So we're using HDMI right now as opposed to DisplayPort, and we're only at 60 frames per second, unfortunately. However, you're seeing that the card can still do the Ultra preset, MSAA times 2, HBAO, and so on, and get you 1080p 60 frames per second, which is good. And I'll give a little more context as to why that is in a minute. But here's what I do on my XL2430T that I can't do on here. See where it says VSync? Instead of 1 frame, I tell it 2 frames. And when I do that, my 144 hertz monitor sets the VSync for 72, and I can keep a rock solid 72 with the 980 Ti. Now, 72 may not sound impressive, but that's still a 20% increase over 60 frames per second. So it's pretty nice. Anyway, with the GTX 970, I can use these settings, but the frame rate is probably not going to be a stable 60 frames per second. Not like this, although this is still fluctuating, which I find to be highly odd. The frame rate in the corner, upper right hand corner, is ticking between 59 and 60, but what I feel in the controller and what I see on the screen is more stutter than that. So maybe it's like a micro-stutter panic attack, I'm not sure. But it's definitely more choppy than that frame rate will tell you. And that's another reason why I make these videos. You see, a lot of people, they'll just give you a chart and they'll say, hey, this game, Far Cry 3, we're getting 60 frames per second, and that's all it says on the chart. Well, they didn't mention that it's a choppy 60 frames per second. I'm not sure why this is so choppy right now. Let me turn off VSync, though. Let me turn that all the way off. See how we're at 102, 100? See, this card can play this game at these settings at about 100 frames per second, just like I said. But it's not stable. Like, as soon as I swung the camera, look at that, now we're at 83. Put it back over here, now we're at 100. Go onto the zip line. Now we're at 90. See, it's going to be all over the place now. And that's how it was on my 144 hertz monitor. Look, now we're in the 70s, 75. Look at that. This is why the rock solid 72 ultimately felt better. So here's the thing. Even with the GTX 970, and I think the 970 is a good card. It's underrated. I know a lot of people like to hate on it, but it's a good card. In some ways, for a lot of games, if you're going to play 1080p, you don't really need the 980 Ti. The 970 is just fine. The problem is this particular game is just such a hard ass on my computer that then I pretty much need a 980 Ti just to play this at a satisfying frame rate and not have the stutters. See, that's the thing. I'm having stutters with VSync on right now. I'm having stutters with VSync off. And a lot of it's because I'm using this stupid 60 hertz monitor. I'm telling you guys, just going to a higher refresh rate monitor gets rid of some of your stutters, some of your choppiness. However, I was still getting stutter on the 144 hertz monitor before I did that trick I showed you, which again, you can only do it on the 144 hertz monitor. You can't do it on here. See, right here where it says VSync 1 frame, that's what most people normally do. If you do 2 frames on here, it's going to give you half of 60, which is 30. See that? Getting 30 frames per second, that sucks. But you do that on a 144 hertz monitor. You do that on a 144 hertz monitor, and again, it locks your frame rate at 72. So the 980 Ti a 144 hertz monitor and then basically adding an extra frame to the VSync buffer gives me a perfect playing experience for this game. And I can show you guys with my camcorder, but I can't show you with my capture device. The problem is whenever I plug HDMI into my 144 hertz monitor, it locks itself at 60 hertz. It won't give me the 144 hertz option anymore. So that's pretty annoying. I assume that maybe the monitor might have 1.4 for HDMI instead of 2.0, and that's the issue. Because the graphics card, I believe, has 2.0 for HDMI. So, again, I'm showing this game in 2015 because it finally took a 980 freaking Ti, which is about on par with the Titan X, and it took a 144 hertz monitor, and it took locking that sucker to a 72 hertz frame rate for me to finally play this game perfectly. Now, I'm sure the comments are going to say, hey, I played this perfectly with a $10 graphics card and this, that, or the other. But my experience has been, and keep in mind, I am very sensitive to micro-stutters. Very sensitive. I hate micro-stutters. This whole time we're playing right here at 60 frames per second, I am experiencing the micro-stutters, and I don't like them. I'm real sensitive to that. On console, I'm really sensitive to motion blur. I don't know what it is. There's something about the way my eyes and my brain work and all that to where like I really notice motion blur. I really notice the micro stutters. Some of you guys might not. Some of you guys might play this exactly the way I am right now at 1080p 60 and love it and not see anything wrong at all. But for me, I see the micro stutters. So now it's crazy. Let me wrap up with this. I just got the 980 Ti. It's a classified from EVGA, so it's no joke. All right. It's a big, giant 980 Ti with a custom PCB, and the thing can handle all kinds of voltage and all that business. It's running on air, though. So I'm running it stock right now. And bear. If I had time to switch my guns, I'd get him with my LMG. And we're dead. We're dead. We're dead. You know what? LMG. There we go. That's all it took. Anyway. Point is, oh yeah, 980 Ti. So I'm trying it with all these games, and it's crazy how many AAA games a single 980 Ti still can't take to 144 hertz when you put them on Ultra. It's not just this game. Now, this game's kind of extreme, which is why I'm using it. But a ton of games cannot go to the 144 hertz. And it's crazy. Because people talk about the 980 Ti, again, on par with the Titan X. And people talk about the Titan X like, oh, this is what you use for 4K. Well, let me tell you something. You can't even get a full 144 hertz in a lot of games at 1080p. So, oh, and I've tried, you can use DSR, right? So with NVIDIA, you can use DSR. And what that does is like, let's play this in 4K. We can do that. All right, apply. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible. Heck, it actually might not even work. Oh boy. All right, it's not going to work. We got a black screen right now. Hopefully my voice is at least still recording. Yeah. So now we got a black screen because I'm using the capture device, and the capture device hates it when I change the resolution during the middle of a recording. Anyway, the point being, I don't even think two 980 Ti's or two Titan X's would really give me what I want when it comes to 4K. I think that's a sad truth that no one's willing to look at right now. I think, you know, I got this 144 hertz 1080p monitor, and I almost thought I was wasting my money. I almost thought like, man, why would, it's 2015, why would you buy a 1080p monitor? At least get a 1440. What's wrong with you? Well, I'll tell you what's wrong with me is So far, the best 1440 monitor on the market is an $800 monitor that's got a high failure rate. All right. A lot of people are reporting high failure rates with that Acer Predator, whatever it's called, the 27-inch 1440 Acer Predator with G-Sync, on sale in 2015. It's September 2015 right now. That's the best 1440p monitor on the market. Now, better ones are coming, I'm sure, and probably cheaper and probably more reliable. But as things stand, the best 1440 monitor is an $800 monitor with a high failure rate. So that kind of put me off. So I tried this 1080 monitor first, and I'm shocked that I like it. Don't get me wrong, it's not 1440, it's not 4K. I'm not deluded. I don't think it's somehow, the most amazing thing in the world, but it's really good. It's good enough that it keeps me warm at night. It's like, all right, I can get by with 1080p if it's going to look this good. And it's the crispest 1080p I've ever seen in my life. Now, the difference is 1440 does pack more pixels in, and it seems to affect things on the screen. Like, it seems to make objects look different. I'm not selling 1440 short. I'm not. But for $400, really like $380, you can get a really good 144 hertz 1080p monitor. And then it goes back to the point I was trying to make a couple minutes ago. Even a 980 Ti, which is basically one of the fastest single graphics cards you can get. And it's 6 gigabytes, sure, but that's enough for 1080p, at least for right now. Shadow Mordor actually uses that whole 6 gigabytes, by the way. It really does. It uses 5800. It uses 5.8 gigabytes of the 6 gigs. So, yeah. But even a 980 Ti cannot do the full. Honestly, it takes a lot of games maxed out to about 90 to 110 frames per second. And for a lot of you guys, you're like, oh, that's perfect. No, it's not perfect. It's a $700 graphics card that can't even fully pimp 1080p. That's depressing, because the GTX 970 was very satisfying for me to use. The GTX 970 I enjoy, and it's $300, right? Like, the same game that goes 100 frames per second maxed out with the 980 Ti goes 70 frames per second maxed out with the 970. And that's still good. I mean, to be honest with you, it's one of those weird things where if you can be in a solid 120 hertz in that area, 120 to 140, if you can be solid 120, then yeah, that's great. But solid 100, it's okay, it's good. It's good, it's better than solid 70, but it's in a different neighborhood, if that makes sense. So I'll put it like this. The games that the GTX 970, and these are AAA games, the games that it can play maxed out at 70 frames per second, that looks good. It doesn't look like trash. And it's half the cost of this. It's less than half the cost of this graphics card. So sorry that the screen blacked out on you guys. But long story short, basically takes a 980 Ti, and then I have to use a 144 hertz monitor, and then I have to buffer my VSync in such a way that only 72 of those hertz are really getting used, if that makes sense. And I know someone's going to tell me I worded that wrong, but you know what I mean. I got to do that to enjoy Far Cry 3. And, maybe it's because Ubisoft sucks. I don't know. See, the catch-22 is I like Ubisoft's games. I don't like that their ports don't perform that greatly. I don't like that. I tried Assassin's Creed Unity with the 980 Ti. Guess what? The Ultra preset 980 Ti Assassin's Creed Unity gets 60 frames per second in 1080p. That's depressing. That's depressing that it takes a 980 Ti to do 1080p 60 frames per second in Unity at the ultra preset. Not, like I had the game running 60 frames per second on a 970, but still, it was lower settings, but still, that's depressing. So, Ubisoft, I like your games. I'm one of the few people, like, I'm objective, okay? I don't jump on the haterade bandwagon. I'm objective. I'll sit here and say, man, Ubisoft, I like your games. They don't run well. Please make them run well because I like them. And, some people, they just want to, like, just jam the knife into Ubisoft's ribs, like they just got the haterade going through them, and they want to act like Ubisoft doesn't make good games. They make good games. Now, what's crazy? As bad as Ubisoft's PC ports are, the console ports are worse. It's just console peasants don't know any better, right? Like I'll be playing, even Unity. I'll be playing Assassin's Creed Unity on an Xbox One, and I know it's not a PS4, but still, I'll be playing it on the Xbox One. I got it for free. And I'm like, what the hell, man? This is what console peasants have to live with? Anyway, sorry for the blank screen. Sorry for the rambling. Just talking to you guys, just having a chat. What I've been trying to do is I try to because I know my videos are long, I try to front load the video with all the pertinent information so the people that don't want to hear me talk, they get that information and they can leave. They still got their information. They didn't have to listen to the whole video to get the information. Now, the people who like to hear me talk and they like to hear my opinions and they like to hear my insights, it's a win-win-win. Everybody wins. I get to share what's on my mind. The people that don't want to hear all that mess, they get the info front loaded so they can dash. And then you find people who are still listening right now as there is a blank screen. You find people, you get everything, right? You get to, apparently you enjoy listening, so you get to hear it and you get the info that was front loaded that the other people got. And I appreciate that you listen. I really do. Because otherwise I'm just a guy talking into a microphone in a room by himself. So thanks for listening, guys. I've actually held off on playing Far Cry 3 because even with a 970, it was having those micro stutters. Even with the 980 Ti right now on the 60 hertz monitor, having the micro stutters. So maybe I'll actually finally get to play that game. So thanks for listening, guys. This has been AI Gaming 1776. Please like and subscribe and all that jazz. It really helps out. And thank you so much for listening. You guys have yourselves an excellent day.